Hey everybody, and I suddenly felt like I could make some changes to my older videos. I was never 100% happy with how some of these ended up. I think for when I improved my drawing skills, there could have been more effects on the reveal to it. Incredible. When I reviewed Wild Gunman in the eShop Saga 2, I always felt like a cold-blooded killer shooting that cowboy. I reckon he should have shot first. And in the eShop Saga 6, when I went down some stairs and tuned to the Klonoa jingle, I felt that I could have added more to the scene. It's frightening how much spare time I have on my hands. Let's face it, nothing in this world is made perfect. There are too many quotas to tick off. It can't be done. And that's especially the case for entertainment. But nowadays, things have changed. Video games can occasionally get updated to give the player some new stuff to do, or more often iron out some glitches. Most times. TV shows can make small changes for understandable reasons for kids in general, and movies can fix previously glaring errors. But even before then, movies would get these changes to be the best version of it possible. To make things clearer, I'm not going to discuss director's cuts, as those could be entirely different films from the original. Here, we're gonna be looking at special edition releases of films that are largely the same as before, but with the random amounts of bullwinkle added to the mix. Let's get the obvious one out of the way. The original Star Wars trilogy, a pioneer in the sci-fi genre, and one of the biggest franchises in the world, that would for some ungodly reason make this. These films were a massive success upon release, and in 1997, they got a special edition release with CGI elements added, likely for Lucasfilm to test the waters with the then upcoming prequel trilogy. While really cool to see these old films get a new coat of paint, they unfortunately replaced the original versions of them, and even afterwards, they still made stupid changes to it, mostly to keep in line with the prequel trilogy, and even that wasn't safe, as they changed Yoda from being a puppet in The Phantom Menace to being CGI to be in line with Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. I can take or leave the changes they added. The explosions do look cooler here, the lightsaber lights line up. It was great to see a scrap scene of Jabba brought back in New Hope. Ian McDermott's hologram in The Empire Strikes Back looks leagues better than the original 1980 release. But I'm not so much a fan of CGI replacing some of the practical effects, and I thought I was watching a sci-fi fantasy adventure. Not an excuse to pull a restraining order. And don't get me started on all the debates of whether Han or Greedo shot first in Mos Eisley. Even before all of this, slight changes were made to these films, most notably Star Wars getting the Episode 4 New Hope title in the opening crawl. There's no way you'll be able to watch these films in their original form, unless you happen to have 35mm film of it from 1977. It's weird. One of the most popular movies ever made is also one of the hardest to find. Thankfully, the last release of the original versions from 1993 had been released in a 2006 DVD set of the trilogy, but with one massive downside. I bet this movie looks really good up close. These are literally the Laserdisc releases slapped onto a DVD, letterbox, pillar boxed and all. I gladly take it the not, but the viewing experience is far from ideal. But fans have been taking it upon themselves to edit the films as close to the original 1977 release as possible with the despecialized version. I can live with the newer versions of the films for the sake of convenience, but I have way more respect for the original visual effects. But hey, at least the holiday special will always be in its original form. And while we're celebrating Christmas out of season, let's look at The Muppet Christmas Carol, which is surprisingly one of the best adaptations of the tale. Yet for the longest time, it felt incomplete, as during the Christmas Past sequence with Belle leaving Scrooge, there was a song called When Love Is Gone. It was cut from the original theatrical release, but appeared in the VHS and Laserdisc versions of the film, as well as some DVD releases, albeit pan and scanned. It would be until 2022 when the sequence was finally brought back in its original form on Disney+, hidden in the extras of the main film. The reason this was cut was because Disney felt that it was too sad and out of place for the film. Are you kidding me? It's a crucial scene in the film helping us learn as to why Scrooge is the way he is, and he starts shedding some humanity feeling upset reliving that moment. And besides, it's not really that different from the Christmas Future scene, which Gonzo and Rizzo go out of their way leaving with how important that scene is, which is still pretty glum and bleak by the Muppet standards. And may I just add that Scrooge and the cast sing When Love Is Found at the end, calling back to the song, and that a pop cover of When Love Is Gone plays in the credits regardless in both versions? Too sad and out of place. That's like if in The Lion King, Disney cut out the stampede that killed Mufasa. I really said it now, didn't I? For some unexplained reason, Disney got a kick out of making dumb tweaks to their classic films. This can range from branding their new logos onto their old films like Cow, to adding THX support to Bambi, and a 2005 DVD release to make his mother getting shot sting that much more. Some men just want to watch the world burn. And taking out a blink and you'll miss topless woman in a building from The Rescuers. Seriously, look it up. But their Renaissance films are a completely different can of worms, as The Little Mermaid notoriously had a shot of a priest on his knee that, if you put on the anti-social life glasses, looked very suggestive for a kids movie, and The Lion King having random changes to its animation, particularly with these crocodiles and leaves that can spell out. I think you can figure out the rest from here. But come the 2000s, for when Disney started releasing special edition DVDs and IMAX re-releases of their films they gave a damn about, they would give Beauty and the Beast and The Lion King brand new scenes. Whenever you see Disney highlight never-before-seen songs in their classic films, be afraid. At least with Beauty and the Beast and its song Human Again, that was initially cut during the film's production, whereas with The Lion King and its song The Morning Report, it is directly taken out to the Broadway show. It has jarringly out-of-place animation and voices of the characters, all in a scene that never needed a song, with later versions of these films showing us how well they turned out. They're not even in the deleted scenes section, and I don't blame them. They were already some of the greatest movies of all time without them, and these additions ultimately came off as tacky. Thankfully, you can go into the DVD settings and change which version of the film you'd like to watch. And in the version of The Little Mermaid on Disney Plus I lambasted a couple of years ago held a 2018 copyright, then boy would I hate to see the original release. Yet Fantasia is a really interesting case of this. Unlike most films of its time, it used its own sound system called Fantasound, and after its original 1940 release, Disney planned on the film being a recurring and ever-changing phenomena, adding in new segments replacing some old ones, while still keeping fan favorites in future re-releases of the film. But this never went through, with it keeping all of its segments from the original to this day. I think these plans and scopes were too ambitious for when the film debuted. But even in recent years, the film did experience significant changes as the Fantasound recordings of the film's sound began to deteriorate, with modern releases having a completely re-recorded film score, and Deems Taylor being dubbed over by Corey Burton, who Star Wars fans might recognize as the voice of Count Dooku in the Clone Wars show. But you can still listen to the original orchestra recordings and album releases though. Alright, I'm gonna go back in time to see Fantasia the way God intended in 1940. I'll be right back. They wouldn't accept credit cards. This trend would soon get made fun of by South Park in the season 6 episode Free Hat, where after the boys get tired of these changes made to Star Wars and E.T., they had out to stop George Lucas and Steven Spielberg from releasing a special edition version of Raiders of the Lost Ark following a similar plot to that film. While Raiders didn't receive such changes, ironically this episode did, as when the show shifted to widescreen with season 13, every episode prior would be re-rendered from 4:3 to 16:9, save for the first episode as that used physical cutout animation. These are the versions of the show's first 12 seasons that currently are on TV, and are also what the Blu-ray releases of these seasons house. But you can still find the original 4:3 versions on DVD. Remember Cats? I sure wish I didn't. It was already a cinematic hairball, but did you note that it looked even worse? When it first came out in December 2019, moviegoers pointed out some noticeable animation errors, with one infamous example being that you can see Judi Dench's human hand with her wedding ring on her character. How do animation errors like that get by so easily? It turns out that the visual effects were rushed during development just so the film could screen in theaters in time for the holiday season. And did that work out well for them? They did quickly put out an updated version of the film with these errors more or less fixed, and I don't know what version it was, but when I saw this film in cinemas, Yes, I saw this in cinemas. I noticed a shot where some of the characters' feet was poorly cropped off. Why were they okay with this? Unfortunately, even the best movies can somewhat suffer from rushed development. Take for instance Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, a brilliant and worthy follow-up to the first movie in pretty much every way, but there were hiccups when it initially released. Like trying to hear what these characters say! One common complaint of the film was that some lines of dialogue were hard to make out, namely during a scene of Gwen Stacy playing the drums. Much like Cats, this film would quickly receive an updated version with the audio mixing fixed. But there were more changes done than you'd initially think, such as some updated textures and small bits of dialogue mysteriously removed, such as one of Gwen muttering "no no 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 no" when trying to find Miles underneath some rubble. This version would replace the initial release, being on home media and streaming. But shortly after the film's release, there were reports of poor working conditions during its production, despite being delayed a couple of times. This would cause around 100 artists to leave during production, and revealed that progress for the follow-up Beyond the Spider-Verse was hardly going anywhere, feeling that its completion in time for a March 2024 release was impossible, and that voiceover work for the film hadn't started around then. After this gained backlash, it was announced that Beyond the Spider-Verse would be delayed indefinitely. Take your time with this one, Sony Pictures Animation. Yet thankfully, Sonic the Hedgehog didn't fall for these pit holes. In May 2019, a trailer for an upcoming movie based on the games was uploaded, featuring a design of Sonic that made me want to cry. This would be critiqued and mocked on the internet, with Paramount delaying the movie from a November 2019 release to February 2020 just to fix the design. And I think this was worth the wait, giving us a more faithful representation of Speedy McSpeedy. The film would also do pretty well critically and commercially, spawning a successful movie series, alongside a spin-off show. But the original design of Sonic hasn't been forgotten, as it plays a surprisingly prominent role in that Chip and Dale movie a while back, and just recently in the giveaway contest to promote Sonic 3, he has his very own ugly Christmas sweater. After these, I'm now more open to see what the first Sonic film could have looked like, with the bad designs unaltered as a fun joke. But it'll be nice to have the best of both worlds, you know, and as luck would have it, the Blu-ray releases of the original Star Trek series goes above and beyond. They provide welcome and neat enhancements, such as making the ship CGI and having some of its creatures blink. But the best part of all is that they also give you the option to watch the original versions of these episodes from 1966. Take note, Star Wars. And those are some special edition releases. These are quite fun and interesting to look at, breathing new life into these films, giving us more reasons to watch our favorites all over again. But more often than not, leave them alone. While they can sometimes enhance the viewing experience, making it more unique, most times they try to fix a problem that never existed, feeling like a wasted project and undervaluing what made the film in question so great and noteworthy in the process, even edging on erasing history at that point. So while these releases do have their time and place, they should be more so treated as a complementary alternative rather than the straight-up replacement. Or preferably, don't do it. Thanks for watching.